Next, we have Rohini Lakshmi, a technologist and an interdisciplinary researcher for a passion for intersection of technology, policy, and civil liberties. With a background in engineering and extensive experience in research and advocacy, has made significant contributions to understanding the complexities of technology and law. Today, she'll be shedding light on the intricate relationship between standard essential patents and free and open source software. So please join me on welcoming Rohini Lakshmi to the stage.
Good morning, everyone. Can you all hear me? And thank you, India Force, for having me over. Yeah, so beginning with a disclaimer, I'm not a lawyer, and none of what I'm going to say today amounts to, could be qualifies as legal advice. This talk assumes basic to no knowledge of patents. If there are experts in the room, please bear with me. And it's a dense topic, so and we have about half an hour. So if you'd like to discuss this with me after the session, please feel free to do so. So a little bit about my own context and background in this. I used to work at the Center for Internet and Society in Bangalore, where we did the first ever landscape of mobile phone patents in India back in 2015, and the study was published in 2017. In addition, I published a paper on the ongoing big ticket patent litigation in India, where Ericsson and another company in different cases sued different Indian mobile phone manufacturers for infringement of their standard essential patents. So the first ever patent landscaping exercise for mobile phone patents in India that I just referred to was with Professor Jorge Contreras at the University of Utah, and we found about 300 granted patents and almost 10 times as many patent applications in that particular dataset. The dataset is publicly available. We did not count how many of those were standard essential patents. Now, the implications of finding granted software patents I'll come to in a later slide. But why is this talk happening? Like, why are patents relevant to this community? One potential reason is that individual FOSS dev or volunteer-run projects, they stand the risk of patent infringement claims or lawsuits. Any other reason why patents are relevant to the people here? Okay. So standards essentially exist so that there is interoperability between different software, between different files, so that everything works, so that your entire infrastructure can talk to each other. That is why standards exist. Some standards are formal, which means that they are set in formal processes at standard development organizations, whereas some are de facto, which means that they evolve over, through market processes. What is a patent? It is one of the types of intellectual property, and its purpose is essentially, okay, I made a cool invention, but I may want to keep it to myself because I may fear that it is misused, or it is, somebody else may steal it. So this is meant to incentivize disclosing the invention, and in return, the inventor gets exclusive rights over the invention for a limited period of time. And for that, they may charge royalties using which they can recover their costs of research and development and so on. So that is the reason why patents exist. What are standard essential patents? Essentially, if a technical standard is to be implemented, then those patents come into play. Now, who decides this? The patent owner. In there are formal processes where the patent owner self-declares that I own these patents that are essential to these standards. Now, in very complex products, such as in the study that I conducted, which was in the internet and telecom sector, a single standard may be covered by hundreds of patents. In the same way, there are many software standards that are very heavily patented. So once the standard essential patents have been established, anyone who wants to use the patent, an implementation of the standard means anyone who wants to use the standard in their software, they need a license from the patent owner. Now, licenses can be royalty free, which means you don't have to pay anything for using those patents. Some are licensed on terms that are called FRAND, which means fair, reasonable, and non-discriminatory. Some are called RAND, which means reasonable and non-discriminatory. Now, this is very contentious because what is fair, what is reasonable, what is non-discriminatory according to one entity may not be so according to another entity. Now, a few slides ago, I said that software patents are not granted in India. What by not granted, I mean that a specific section of the Indian Patents Act, Section 3K, says that computer applications are excluded per se. And then there are guidelines of the Indian Patent Office regarding what are called CRIs, computer-related inventions. And the reasoning behind not, for excluding software patents is that it is already protected by two other kinds of intellectual property. They are protected by copyright, and they are also protected by trade secret law. So patent protection for software is overkill. Now, what can happen if you get a claim or you get sued for infringing on somebody's patents? So you might get a cease and desist notice saying, hey, stop using them and pay me royalties, or I'll sue you, or you may get sued directly. Is that in response you may have to make drastic changes to your project, you may have to shut it down, you may have to remove features, you may have to pay up to use the patent, plus all the entire process of filing a lawsuit if you do go into a lawsuit, and the harm to your reputation, because you essentially get accused of stealing somebody else's intellectual property. Now, this is not, what you see in the screenshot, is that readable? It is not. Okay. So this is about a plugin of the image editing software GIMP. This patent is not a standard essential patent, but this is a note from the developer's website who worked on the image mosaic plugin. The developer says, Mr. Robert Silvers, the holder of a patent related to the technology that was used in the plugin, argued that the software would directly infringe his patent's rights. It is not clear if the patent is applicable in this case, but I have neither the time, interest, or money for legal action. So I complied with the cease and desist request. So you can see what happens here. The developer doesn't even know whether the patent applies and whether they can be sued there, but they don't have the resources or the bandwidth if this matter goes to court, and so they complied any which way. Any questions so far? Yes.
Yeah. So, are there licensing applied on the standard or the patents required for that standard?
The licenses are for patents only. whether or not it is royalty free, that this will be mentioned on the websites of the standards development organization, or they'll have a policy saying all. There are many organizations and many, processes. So they will state what are the terms of the license on their documentation.
So the standards per se are always royalty free, is it? Or like
So
license
the standards will have corresponding patents, right? So those patents are royalty free or FRAND or RAND. Yeah. So the royalties are for patents. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. So patents are jurisdiction specific for each jurisdiction, that is for each country. You have to apply in that particular patent, that country's particular patent office. So when you apply for a US patent, you're applying for a patent that you can use, sell, you can manufacture, you can provide a service in the US. If you want to do that in India, then you have to apply for a patent in India. Yeah, so some of the tensions between SEPS and FOSS. So how many have used OpenOffice or LibreOffice? Almost everybody here. If any of you works with complex formatting, text formatting in those documents, in DocX for example, you will find that if you are working with someone who uses Microsoft Office, the document becomes unusable. You can barely read it. So, I use LibreOffice and I have to tell people that I work with that, okay, if you are using Microsoft Office, don't even bother because I will not be able to read your docx. Let's use something else. And that is because even though they are governed by the OpenOffice XML standard, what has essentially happened is that the standard itself was fragmented in a way that the standard that works in that works in MS Office is different from the one that works in LibreOffice. So this is fragmentation, and this is causing interoperability issues. And like I said earlier, the main reason why standard exists is because we need interoperability between different software. This is a very fundamental conflict in the sense that, as I said earlier, the point of patents is to grant exclusive rights. And therefore, the idea is exclusivity, but FOSS is promoting, open access to technology. SEPs are usually licensed on FRAND terms, fair, reasonable, and non-discriminatory. Non-discriminatory here would mean that if it is a standard essential patents, you don't like, the owner can't say, I will give it to this person, but not that, to this entity, but not that. And therefore, like, fundamentally, the terms for licensing can be incompatible with the licensing terms of FOSS projects, because FOSS is geared towards openness, whereas patents are geared towards exclusivity. And FOSS licenses often require that the entire source code be made public, and that it is distributed free of royalty. So this is quite a complex topic. We don't have enough time, but the fundamental conflict is the principles of these two things. So patent assertion is the screenshot that I just showed. Somebody saying that I own this patent, they may or may not implement it. Which mean, by implementation I mean that they may or may not, sell a service or a product or perform some other activity using the patent. They may just be holding the patent. They may not even have invented it. They may have bought it from somebody else. So that is called patent assertion. Sometimes the term patent troll is used, although the entities that do it, of course, don't like the term. And like we've seen that example in the screenshot, that they will say either stop using it or pay me royalties. But FOSS licenses don't require the making any payment. So this threatens the very idea of FOSS. Now, like I said previously, standard essential patents are self-declared, which means that the owner says, I have these bunch of patents, and they apply to this particular standards. Now, that is done through a formal process at standard setting organizations, standard development organizations. It's very difficult to determine how many of them are truly essential to the standards. And this goes into, how the language of the patent, which is drafted by patent attorneys, patent agents, and it is often geared towards not disclosing, which is the point of a patent is to disclose the invention, is geared not towards disclosing, but towards obfuscating, to make it harder to understand, make it harder for somebody else to read it and use it, and so on. And so the lack of this transparency, so patent owners clearly have an incentive to over-declare which patents are essential, and they often sell they often license an entire bundle of patents. So that may include expired patents and so on. So this lack of transparency, makes it harder for someone in the FOSS domain, say an individual developer or, a small organization or a volunteer-run project, to determine whether they are in line with the requirements of patent licenses and whether they are on the right side of the law. So yeah, if we can connect offline, I can share some of these reading material about how fundamentally software patents hurt the idea of free software. Thank you. Any questions?
Hi, I'm Shiv. My question, not exactly on the patent, but using patent, how we can secure the open source software, getting commercial in the futures. Because so many organizations, even though it is copyright or GPU, they are, getting commercialized. For example, recently, Oracle, acquired, not recently, but it's been a long time. And again, Talent recently. So many, open source softwares are being acquired and making it commercial. But how patent can play a role to avoid such, the acquisitions and, making it commercial?
So as far as I know, mergers and acquisitions will have their own terms about what happens to different, like to the assets and property owned by the acquired company, right? So if there are usually clauses that will say that whoever, like that patent will get transferred as part of the acquisition contract. I don't see how filing a patent would change any of that, because the point of doing the acquisition is to get everything that is owned by, the other entity.
Got it. But my question, is there any role patent can play there to, stop that? Because a lot of developers are contributing to the, community and the open source. And is there
so
any
exactly the thing is, this is why software patents are not allowed, is, patents are geared towards exclusivity, and if it's a community, if it's a collaborative effort, if it's a community effort, then it can't be land grabbed by one entity. This is exactly why software patents are not allowed. So patents should not be allowed. So we need to fight them, not like get more patents.
Got it. Like Open Invention Network, I think.
Yes,
they
there is one person from OIN here. Yeah, you can talk to them.
I know Venkatesh. Yes.
Yeah.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah. No, there's no infringement. I said what has happened is they are not, LibreOffice and Microsoft Office are not fully interoperable because of the way standardization has happened, where in theory they are the same file format. They are, in theory, they are same technical standards, but actually it is not, and that is deliberate. So what has happened is there are two different standards. One of them is Open Office XML transitional and Open Office XML standard. The transitional one goes into LibreOffice and the standard one goes to MS Office, which is why there are now interoperability problems. And now, like, you know, I work with editors, and there's quite a bit of editing and writing process involved. And now I really can't use any document that's used via MS Office unless it's like really simple, you know, just lines of text or something. So now, you know, if I had to work, if I were forced, somehow to acquiesce to someone using MS Office, I would have to get MS Office. As a result of this, I can say, okay, you know, MS Office not working for me, please use an alternative. I have the power to say that, but if I did not, then what would essentially have happened was that I would need to buy a license of MS Office because everybody around me is using MS Office, and LibreOffice, which I use, is not compatible, it's not interoperable with, in all times, in all instances, not like fully incompatible. But certain instances, certain uses, it's not. Yeah. He can. So like I said, software is already protected by copyright law. It's already protected by trade secret. So yeah.
What happens is that, you know, it kind of then they can come to us and say, hey, you have to pay royalties for our using our intellectual property. But the argument that we put forth the FOSS community puts forth as a counter is that, you know, basically programming is an applied form of mathematics and logic. You know, you do not patent mathematics and logic because, you know, unfettered use of that is essential to the progress of humanity. So I think this is a case where the lawyers have come in and, you know, twisted and ruined the entire field for programmers. And because the programmers are not very well aware of the issues, the lawyers have really prevailed. And we are trying to get more developers interested in this issue. So we have this website called endsoftwarepatents.in, and I request all of you, all developers, to look it up. Anybody interested in FOSS to look it up, because if we do not push back against this, I think programming is going to become very difficult. You know. Just imagine, if you want to build a e-commerce software, there are some 11,000 patents in the US on e-commerce. There are some 5,000-6,000 patents on online shopping. There are some, you know, thousands of patents on online payments. And as a developer, just to do that, just to build an e-commerce site, if you have to go through 20,000 patents, it's impossible. So check out endsoftwarepatents.in, and if you want to contribute to that, do let us know.
Okay. Yeah. Yes.
Hello,
Yeah.
I am Maxigas from the Critical Infrastructure Lab, and thank you for the presentation and for your work. My question is basically about the differences between the US patent situation and how patents work in India. So if you could speak to if there is anything specific to know about how patents function within the Indian jurisdiction. And for instance, I am mostly interested in patents about telecommunication standards in mobile phone communication. So if you could mention, for instance, is it customary for companies like Ericsson to also register their patents in India and other jurisdictions? Thank you.
Yes. So the way patents work, so copyright, for example, is it exists by default. You have to opt out if you want to give up your copyright. Patents are an opt-in kind of intellectual property, which means that if you want to assert that as your intellectual property right, then you have to register it. You have to register a patent application, and that is specific to jurisdiction, which means that for every jurisdiction in which you want a patent, you have to put in an application. So the big ticket patent litigation that happened in India, which started back in 2011, the paper I spoke about, that was by Ericsson and another company, Ringo, against Indian mobile phone manufacturers. And of course, to assert that patent, to be able to file that lawsuit in India, you have to have a patent registered in India. So all of, for it to be enforceable, you have to have it in India.
And do you think that patents can be a problem for developing the indigenous implementation of 5G protocols?
I might have to interject. We can continue the Q&A outside.